right, let's get down with some Neurospicy Podcast action. Boy, look at that hair. I need a haircut viciously. Running live here on YouTube, but running back up, of course. MP3, hopefully we'll get that right. Yeah, let's turn this down a little bit. It's kind of strange not having a background for a change. I guess I probably should green screen it. You can kind of see all the crazy portals on my wall over here, all the mirrors that some of the people on the different witchcraft pages are always concerned about, that I need to lock those portals. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is portal exchange or portal express. This is where all the powers are coming through, right? Like, why do I want to lock them up? I got this. I capture demons and eat them all the time. Was choking on one last night, like a bone in my throat, I tell you. Oh man, that was not. It's not feeling good last night. Pretty obvious from the podcast. Oh, 2 a.m. I don't know if I'll make it all the way through until they fire up CERN in a couple of hours. And so that will be live on YouTube. And that's going to get really neurospicy at that point. They're expecting some new data from these collisions that they're going to make. Some people have talked about the smaller collisions and some of the things that have happened in the past and so on. And again, it's a fun thing to sort of geek out about, as far as being a conspiracy theory. In the end, maybe nothing will happen, probably, but it's fun to think that maybe something will happen. I know some of the astrology people are talking about what's going on with Mercury right now. You hear the police. Fireworks weren't that bad. Not my favorite in America, but here in the city limits, verboten, but people still do it. Outside the city limits, it was like flying over fucking Baghdad or Beirut in that case. So anyway, we think about things that happen with people that have neurodivergent minds. And we're at the point now where we think that if our numbers are greater than expected, is there some other causality that's in effect here? Or is it that we've just done such a good job from the neurotypical, the standard sort of brain thinkings, to sort of quash a lot of the activities that would be useful for somebody who is neurodivergent? Pattern recognition. I mean, there's a lot of beneficial things that can happen. People that are first responders and so forth like that tend to be neurodivergent. We're pretty good at some of those things. We struggle in other areas. Definitely in our personal and private life, we can really struggle. I said to my friend today, as he was kind of thinking about being a neurodivergent, and I said, well, it's all fine and dandy if you can create a life for yourself where it doesn't sort of impact others in an adverse way. But if you're with your partner, your significant other, and it's like it'd be the equivalent of them, being used to driving an automatic, and now they're with you and they've got to drive a stick, and so of course they're always going to knock it out of gear. They're going to grind the clutch. They're going to stall. All these different things, and it's going to be your fault. It's not going to be their fault, and I kind of understand that. But if I can convince my significant other that this is a stick and not an automatic, it may help the relationship. And I also have to recognize that this person is not used to driving 4 on the floor or 3 on the tree. That's an even better one if you've ever had the pleasure of driving 3 on a tree. I drove Pete Bolognese truck one time for Garth Pyatt. We'd been out drinking or whatever else, so we drive. And 3 on the tree, I had to think about how it's 4 on the floor, but 3 on the tree. Basically, the gear shift is on the steering column on some older vehicles. Hard to believe, right? Yeah. Back in my day, we were neurospicy, but we had false wooden teeth. And we used to get off on woodpeckers. I don't know. I just made that up. I'm concerned that I'm wearing a black shirt, but on the screen it's been like olive drab or gray. And so I wonder what other colors are off here in this case. And why? I cannot stop yawning, and I think I should just go to bed, right? Instead of wasting your fucking time and talking some bullshit about some bullshit. That's the truth of it. If you're looking for answers, obviously I'm not the right person, aside from maybe entertaining you slightly or tickling parts of your brain with some of my probes and trying to get you think about things differently is part of my mission, so to speak. But also to recognize that if you're struggling with ADHD in a relationship or trying to start a relationship and you have ADHD, especially as an adult, I wouldn't be so shy or guarded about it, only because once you dive into sort of the community that's available to us online, you will find so many supportive people who also suffer from ADHD as adults, who are also on the spectrum for some other things, whether they're Aspie or autism. We just have better ways of detecting things now. As part of the reason why we have a surge in numbers. But I would say there probably are some environmental effects as well. If we think about using our smartphones, got a lot of smartphones and a lot of dumb people. We know that you should avoid that in the morning because you get addicted to that dopamine rush. And one of the things that we have difficulty with in ADHD, of course, is dopamine regulation or even serotonin regulation to a certain extent. Since COVID, and I was reading today, they were talking about COVID brain fog and trying to understand, why that's the case. And a lot of it has to do with the inflammation that takes place in the body and especially within the brain. The brain itself has certain types of like sweeper cells, basically. And so when you have dead brain cells, like most of us, or dendrites or whatever else that are no longer used or withered or whatever else, these sweeper cells, that's their job, is to sweep them up and reprocess them, reappropriate the materials, and so on. When you have COVID, because of the inflammation in the brain, these sweeper cells are sort of drunk. They can't tell the difference between the dead cells they should be cleaning up and your regular good old brain cells. And hence the fog action, because it's just fucking turning everything into recycled chewing gum up there. Kind of reminds me of like staying awake for 7 or 8 days at a time, right? Whoa. And everything starts coming off the walls and everything else happens, right? The paranoia and so on, because your brain is basically feeding on itself, and then you're also making a lot of different loops in there as well. And so anything can be possible within your mind in that case, which is one of the reasons why people get really far out there. I mean, people that are supernauts, people that want those experiences, not people that are sort of addicted and get there by no fault of their own. Well, I guess it's all their fault, but they're not thinking about I'm gonna be awake for 7 days and have some sort of mystical experience. They're thinking like I just want to keep going, right? Keep getting high. But once you reach sort of supernaut status, and everything that you do is sort of a biohack or a physical experiment or a mental experiment for yourself to find out what your limits are, what your abilities are, and so on, then it's a lot more empowering because you're also doing a lot of data collection. At least I do. And that's part of the hyperfixation, I'm sure, of ADHD is collecting, reams and reams of data, whether it's biometric data, looking at things like my breathing rate, my heart rate, skin temperature, any kind of biodata that I think is useful, depending on what compounds that I may be experimenting with. These days, nothing heavy, of course, because hey, I got responsibilities, whatever else. But there are some compounds that I'm still interested in, and I think have potential for different aspects of physical or mental enhancement, maybe spiritual enhancement, I guess. And these compounds themselves, again, as a supernaut, you have to be willing to take it to the edge. Now, I don't advise this for everybody, but let's not forget that even Isaac Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, Mr. Appleman, he stuck a needle in his own fucking eye. It's documented, right? I mean, this is just shows you what happens sometimes with people that go down the scientific process. I can't imagine that. I mean, I can't imagine sticking anything in my eye. I mean, I have a hard time when I stick a finger in there, but a needle, but he wanted to have some kind of experiment, so he did it. And we will find that a lot of this sort of cutting edge gonzo science or outlaw science or whatever else can yield some benefits. I mean, they're talking about, making an application to the DEA for, the purchase and experimentation of controlled substances. It's $350 for the license, but, I don't think everybody can get it. And then you're on their radar on top of it, right? My only reason why I would even consider something like that is obviously because, Portland is decriminalized, across the river is decriminalized most of the Schedule I drugs. And so I'm assuming that they might be plentiful there. I'm not sure. But again, from a research standpoint, I think it's more interesting. I know I'm going to have some difficulty later getting the medication that I need, which is obviously Adderall, which is also Schedule I. That's why I can't do Telemed anymore after August. They cracked down on that, so I have to go through another provider. If I could become my own provider, I would do it because I could do it right out of China. Not easily at first, but if I had the license, I could. And so that would not be an issue for them. Supernaut status is something that's not awarded. It's something that you achieve. And I think every time I hear that ministry revolting Cox version of Black Sabbath Supernaut, it just does something to me. Whether it's in the gym, on the dance floor, kicking somebody's ass, whatever it may be, it just resonates with me. And I like the name, Supernaut, right? It's like an astronaut, right? But you're a supernaut. And I also think the play on words, super not doing that, right? But it's actually N-A-U-T. It's kind of like being a space cowboy. If you guys ever seen Your Tu Mama Tambien, that's the idea, is to be so free with yourself that you're willing to go to the edge for the purpose of going to the edge, to have an experiment. If we think of some of our more prolific experimenters and writers and stuff like that, I mean, obviously you can't attribute anything that's not gonzo to the great Hunter S. Thompson. I mean, he practically invented the genre for the most part. At least he got the most known for it. Bukowski to a certain sense, I guess, living his art. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are doing that. And I think the process of being a supernaut is also being neurospicy and being true to your art. In the end, people always ask me, what is it you do? I said, well, I'm an artist. Oh, what do you do? What do you paint? Whatever. No, my life is my art. This is my masterpiece. And sometimes it's melancholy, and sometimes it's bright and chippy, and sometimes it's ethereal and weird or whatever else. But that's the only way that I can wrap my head around this experience, is by saying that it is a type of art. My creativity for speaking, drawing, writing, speaking online, making memes, whatever else like that. I mean, it doesn't add up to a hill of beans. I never thought that I would be successful as an artist, or even known in my own time as an artist. And it may not matter in a few hours anyway. So, why get your knickers twisted. Get your panties in a bunch, which seems to be the appropriate response for so many things these days. And it's a strange juxtaposition because the things that we really should be upset about, we just pass away. We just don't get the getting of it. This shit that happened in Illinois, 4th of July parade celebration, this fucking prick shooting up 6 people and gets taken alive. Whereas, right across the state line there in Akron, Ohio, they shoot this black kid 90 fucking times. I just don't. I don't get it. I can't get it. I'm glad that I don't get it, because if I got it, then I'd probably be on the other side of this equation, and I can't imagine what that would be like. Not having some sort of inner dialogue, having my moral compass dictated by the Iron Age sheep herder's guide to the galaxy. It's just not for me, baby. I'm sorry. You can't be a supernaut and play those games. But once you have taken those heroic doses and have gone to the other side, or as Thompson said, the only people that know the edge are the people that have been there. And once you've been there, it's really hard to reset and come back into this and think this is okay, because it's not. It's not okay. It's just not okay. I think we've all had it. Going through the pandemic here and all this other bullshit, I think people have just had it. Tell by their attitude. You try to be as kind and as friendly and as open as possible when you're out in public. At least I do, because I think it's important, especially for people that are working in customer service or whatever else, just because everybody else is a fucking ass. And I'm glad it doesn't happen around me too much. It's happened on occasion, and usually end up booing the people out of the store or whatever else. And then thankfully people will follow along like lemmings and boo with you, because they've also kind of fucking had it. And you'll be surprised how booing as a crowd gets somebody to move their ass out of their Karen state, so to speak, and just flee. Because then they realize that they are the lone lunatic in a crowd full of people that don't put up with their behavior. I just read an interesting piece from Pastor, believe it or not. It surprised me. It was a good piece, and then it got down to the end. Pastor so-and-so, John Plavlitz, whatever else. And he was basically talking about evangelicals, just how they have really burnt the bridge with so many other people, that would be sort of in their ballpark or in their wheelhouse, through all the series of things that they've done by demonizing Barack Obama and then supporting Trump. It's just the hypocrisy. It's that we've sort of seen through for a long time, but now it's so like blatantly in your face. Hey, this is about white people kind of thing. It's hard not to, say you've had enough of their shit in more ways than one. Again, I was telling my significant former today about this kid that came over to do some canvassing for a politician named Kent here in Washington State, who's running against J.B. Herrera Butler. Got to put that Herrera in there, right, when you're running for office. I can't say that her record has been stellar, but at least she's a woman. And so even though I'm not a big fan of a lot of the stuff that she supports, I preferred her competition. I voted for that, but that's always the way ended up voting for the underdog. Anyway, I asked this kid, I said, first he was shocked when he opened the door. When I opened the door, because obviously I was in my skivvies and my little grape smugglers, as I probed to wear as an old man in my house. And, there's a doormat on my door. It says, hold on, we're not wearing pants. We're probably not wearing pants. And it always cracks people up. I thought it was a good doormat. Also, it says all Jedis welcome as well. So I opened the door, and because I was expecting somebody else. that can see me in my skivvies. And so he took a stand back. He's like, "Oh, I guess that's true." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I'm so and so from the blah 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 of the Kent." I'm like, "Oh, the Trump guy, right?" "Yeah." I said, "Get the fuck out of here." And slammed the door. And then, of course, the guy molested my mailbox. Just a kid. But he looks like that kid that just fucking shot up that fucking rally, man. I remember comics talking about being scared of white kids. I mean, probably used to say they were scared of black kids, but I'm pretty sure most comics now are probably afraid of white kids. I didn't even think anything of it, I don't care. I really don't. I'm not gonna live my life in fear. I've got so many other fucking problems on my list. I don't have time to be afraid of these chicken shit motherfuckers. In the sense that if they want to start some shit, hey, let's do it, man. I've got plenty of fucking angst that I would love to fucking unload on some motherfucker. So don't fuck around and find out with me, is you might get more than you fucking bargained for, as I am definitely on the edge about so much shit lately. Like most of us are. We're ready. And so when it comes to all this other crap that we don't like, makes sense, right? We've had it. So maybe the large collider thing will fucking make a change. Be fun, right? How worse can it get? It's going to look like season 3 of the Umbrella Academy, where the hotel is the only thing standing, and the rest of the world is, being chewed up by a Kugelblitz black hole thing. I don't know. As long as there's talking chimps like Pogo riding around on motorcycles, I'm probably okay with that. It's the only reason why I jumped into that show, because I thought that was pretty cool. And it was only for a few scenes. I was kind of disappointed. I was like, it reminds me of that comic book called The Humans about the monkey biker gang. I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see it done. And I'm probably sure it probably will be done, because they always end up mining all of our childhood. Eventually it becomes nostalgia, it becomes homogenized as a product. That's the nature of the system. So how do we as neurodivergent people navigate this? It's a challenge. I think we have to be sentient of what our situation is. And I think we have to be careful not to be overly gaslit by neurotypicals. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to us. And so I'm at the point now, if I'm talking about neurodivergence or ADHD, I want to talk to somebody else that either experiences it or has it or is married to somebody with it, has firsthand accounting of it or specializes in it, right? I don't want to hear from a neurotypical therapist. I just don't. They don't get it. They can't get it. They might read the DMSO and they might have all kinds of practice with other people and so forth, but there's no way they can relate. I'm sorry. That's how different our fucking brains are. And I appreciate that they want to relate. I appreciate that they want to help. But it's the same arguments that you've probably had with your own helpers or enablers or family members or whatever, in the sense that, they cannot fully compute what is happening in that beautiful neurodivergent brain of yours, that delicious neurospicy way of thinking, where you can look at things and fucking size it up almost immediately. Especially if you grew up in trauma, you're an expert thin slicer, right? You have to be. There's power in that. And I think we have to be empowered by that. I know that in some ways trauma has affected a lot of us, but I don't want to be defined by that. And nor should you. I think we should try to find the definitions for ourselves of the person that we would like to be. And those that do not fit in that scheme, okay, thank you very much. See you later. I know that's not probably socially viable. It sounds like kind of like an us versus them kind of situation, but for so long, I was made to feel so bad for something I didn't have control over. If I'd been a raging fucking drunk or a pill popping fucking, addict or whatever else, they would have had me in and out of rehab and all this, I know people that they're kids. I mean, they just fucking have poured a tremendous amount of resources in them to try to get them to fucking sober up and get their shit together. It's unbelievable. But for most of us, coming out of the fucking wild, the Bender fucking Christmas, smoke up, Johnny. I mean, you don't get shit. And so you end up going to school and you get bullied again because you're different. You think different. And you actually might be good at some of the subjects because you can, use your neurodivergent hyperfixation skill sometimes to crash study or whatever else and see the patterns. And, there's different sort of experiences with people and other things you might struggle with because you can't do a good job at the beginning. So you kind of give up. That's what happened to me in mathematics in the beginning is that I had a math teacher that was shit. He was a shit at everything. He had a hard time managing his classes, God bless him. He was an old man, but, he should have retired a long time ago. But now I know why he didn't, because he probably couldn't fucking afford it, right? So he just kept teaching. And he probably loved it. I think he did love teaching. But pre-algebra, man, forget about it. And then I was screwed because if you don't have the scaffolding for that, it's really hard to advance into other aspects of mathematics. And finally, I didn't crack it until university level because I needed to graduate. I needed a math courses. So I had no choice. I had to make it happen. And so then you sort of reapply yourself in a different way to make sure that it works. And so again, I think you have those capabilities when you're neurodivergent if you give yourself the opportunity. And don't let other people sway you from that, because they will. They will try to sway you from that. I don't know why. Maybe again because they're used to driving automatic, and you're okay with stick or 18 gears or whatever else like that, and so you know that you can do this. I cannot tell you how many times in my life people thought I was out on a limb sawing the motherfucker off, right, while I'm on it. What they didn't realize is that, I'm on the limb, so I know how fucking far out of the limb I am. And I'm not gonna saw the motherfucker while I'm on it and kill myself. Although the other day I was feeling pretty low. But again, it'll pass, right? One more day, just like anybody else that's, trying to do anything. Just do it one more day. And see if you make it till tomorrow. And usually that works. It's not a great solution. It's not the best solution, but at least it keeps you in the fight. And it's a fight. It's a world that's composed of a will to power. And so you've got to put your will and you've got to take your power. You have to claim your power. Because people will use it. People will use you. I've been used so many different ways over the years. People have manipulated me and cheated me and, whatever else, fucked me over for paltry shit, pittances, because they, thought I was dumb or whatever else. They realized I just didn't give a shit. Part of that's the disassociation that we get sometimes with neurodivergent people, especially if they grow up with a lot of domestic abuse and trauma. We have a tendency have a tendency to disassociate. It's just an easy survival tactic. And then oftentimes I know when people are going to do me dirty, And I might let it happen just so it's done. And I can write that person off and put a fucking shroud on them. Occasionally, you get me more than once. That has happened. That happened to me recently. I thought 20 years would make a difference for somebody, but no. They are more than determined to make my life a living hell for whatever reason. And I suspect a lot of it just has to do with happiness. And despite my situation, I was pretty happy. And I think for some people, that's hard to tolerate. Like, I can't have happiness. You shouldn't have happiness either, because you are also messed up, right? So I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that that doesn't happen for you. Did a pretty fucking good job. You think about people that break up marriages, like how they get off on that shit. That's spooky, man. I mean, it's some kind of like evil, vile shit that I wouldn't think of. But some people can. Some people with borderline personality disorders. Some people that have a lot more fucking trauma, self-induced on top of it, definitely can be extremely vicious. Again, ties in with narcissism. And growing up with a narcissist myself, it seems to be my daddy issue that quite oftentimes I will get involved with female narcissists. I'm about a 16 on the scale. My significant former is about a 26. And I would suggest that probably on that scale, more females probably come out higher anyway. You think about what we've done in society. How much money that we force females to spend on trying to be pretty, trying to buy beauty products and trying to stay young and all that. I mean, that's narcissistic behavior. We encourage it. We really do. We've got a whole fucking industry based on that aspect of it. So I can't get too bent out of shape on that one, in the sense that I kind of understand why it happens. But my thing is I don't care if you're a hustler. I don't care if you're a sex worker. I don't care if you're a fucking gangster, outlaw, whatever the fuck you are. Just don't hustle me. If I'm with you, I'm with you. And you got to take care of me. That's my neurospicy thing. Treat me right, I'll treat you better. That's just how we are. Some people have a hard time with that. They just can't get it. And again, I would say that if I am involved with someone who is neurotypical, it's always going to be a conflict. Anybody that does not have the litmus test is easy. Just ask them, do you have an inner dialogue? Do you have that little man on the rat wheel in there, or woman, or voice, or whatever else, that little Jiminy Cricket talking to you late at night, early in the morning, when you're driving, when you're by yourself? You're talking to yourself, right? And if they say no, fucking run the other way, man. That's the difference between a player and a host in Westworld, as far as I'm fucking concerned. If you don't have an inner monologue, you are neurotypical to the bone. I can't even imagine. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's not my thing in any sense of the word of being. I mean, I've tried it through meditation. I've tried it through, obviously, supernaut techniques. Zazen, sitting on a fucking cushion until my legs fell asleep. All of that shit to get to that point where it's silence on the inside. It just doesn't happen. I might get the dialogue to quiet down and maybe get into a sort of mode with me. But then the tinnitus, the ringing in the ears, the chronic pain in my body, all that shit comes into play. And then you're supposed to, according to, I can't think of her name now. She's a very famous Buddhist monk. Talks about meditation. She'll tell you, like, well, you just got to go with it. You got an itch, or your foot's falling asleep, you just gotta meditate with it. All right, bitch, you're neurotypical. Oh, shit. So the idea of being neurospicy is it definitely empowering to me. It's like, yeah, I got a neurospicy brain. I'm always thinking about the booty. It's a curse, But I don't want to stop. I think about older guys when they talk about that, like the day that they sort of stop thinking about it. And for some people they like it, they're glad. But on the other hand, for me, I think probably it's part of my identity in a sense, or at least I want it to be part of my identity, that I am virile, that I have virility. Now I got to think about getting a fucking vasectomy because of this bullshit going on in my country. I know other guys that have done it, and they say, yeah, it's no big deal. So if I can do it, I'm going to do it. It makes sense under the circumstances. Why subject a woman who no longer has the same fucking autonomy or right to her body that I do? I don't understand how we got here. How did this happen, Clarence motherfucking Thomas? You long dong silver pubic hair coke drinking motherfucker. And your goddamn fucking rubberneck fucking wife Jenny bussing motherfuckers to the insurrection and shit. It's a fucking conflict of interest, you old motherfucker. I can see why fucking Zuck Buddy, Instagram, everybody's fucking shut me down because I am very vocal about these cocksuckers being fucking evil and vile. For what reason? Who are they satisfying with this shit? The evangelical base, the Trump base? The pressure from the states? What are you doing to us? You're fucking dividing this nation. It's always been a single voter issue anyway. And so now we're going to put this into the breach. World Health Organization had a meeting almost immediately, and they're fucking predicting more fucking violence in this country, domestic terrorism, probably to the lengths that we haven't seen yet. This is the kind of shit that gets fucking pinheaded white little dick energy motherfuckers fired up. They can't get no pussy anyway. And so it's just easier for them to hate on women and fucking shoot up parades and all the fucking shit, bomb abortion clinics and crap like that. I talked to the outfit in Spokane. They're getting ready because it's right on the border there with Idaho, which is Idaho's going to be a no, and Washington's going to try to fight to protect it. But because they're so close there on the border, there's a lot of overlap. A lot of them fucking charlatan fucking preachers and shit with their liberty fucking flags and whatever else. It's just fucking white nationalism. Again, I don't understand the mentality. When I was a kid, yes, 12 years old, I thought, yeah, Nazis are cool. Yeah, look at their uniforms. And then you realize what the horrible fucking shit they do and have done to not only an entire race of people, but to gypsies and artists and homosexuals and anybody that was different. That's the thing, see? That's some neurotypical fucking savagery right there. That's not neurodivergent savagery. That's neurotypical savagery. Because somebody with an inner fucking dialogue would say, hey, this is kind of fucking wacky. What the fuck's going on here? But if you don't have that little dialogue, and you go along with der Fuhrer or the Trumpenführers to fucking tell you, hey, motherfucker, pump the brakes, it ain't gonna happen. And then, that little dick energy, it seems to somehow swell up really hard in a group. Just like those idiots, wanted to bash up the fucking Pride March, sitting in the back of a Ryder truck. Oh, fuck, I bet they were fucking, their asses were greasy and their dicks were fucking hard as fuck, man. They were fucking ready. The fucking the half of them are fucking 3/4 queer anyway. I mean, anybody I knew was a fucking fag basher. Usually he's a fucking Peter Puffer. My bestie in Chicago told me that he used to be a fag basher. And he's the gayest motherfucker I know now. He said he did it to cover up for being gay and want his dad to know or whatever else, right? Fucking disgusting. It's like that shit that goes on in Washington, right? It's the hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy. It's the neurotypical hypocrisy. Unfucking believable. I get it. I get it why I don't want to be here anymore, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's see what happens when CERN fires up in a few hours. Does it give us a jolt? Does it give us a change in energy? Does it open up a new portal for us? And what the fuck comes through that portal, right? That's the other thing. As a supernaut, I know for a motherfucking fact there are some interdimensional fucking entities out there, and they are not all friendly. They are not all clockwork elves that are going to give you some sort of lit bouncing ball geographic knowledge. Some of these motherfuckers are just straight up soul eaters. And you can see it. You can see some of the videos of like dark energy going across crowds and shit like that. I mean, it's an interesting phenomenon. But there's definitely some shit out there that we are unprepared to fuck with. I mean, it makes sense. It's just the natural order of things, right? Everybody's a fucking tough guy until they fucking meet a real one who whoops their fucking ass. It's the same thing for us in the fucking food chain here, We're at the top of the food chain until we fucking find something that thinks we're delicious, and then we're fucked. And it might not be our physical body. It could be our mental energy. It could be our spiritual energy that they feed off of. I mean, that would make a lot of sense, right? I mean, if you were an interdimensional, you don't go to a fucking interdimensional fucking Safeway to get your food, right? You'd probably sustain yourself on something else. Energy seems to be the biggest choice in this case. Since energy can't be destroyed, it can only be converted. And so if you're some kind of interdimensional fucking demon, you still got energy. Just like some people do in this world. They're fucking psychic vampires. They suck on energy, You've been around them, you know how they are. They're people that you want to escape immediately. Trust that intuition. I can't tell you. I mean, I know it's frustrating sometimes when people go with me places because I'll walk into a place to get something to eat or, whatever, drink, and I'll scan the room, turn around, and I'll walk right the fuck out. If I'm not feeling it, I'm not fucking staying. As I've done that. I'm not feeling it, and I said, well, I'll stay because I don't want to look for someplace else, and I don't want to, make a fuss, whatever else, and it always turns out to be a shitty experience. Trust your intuition, neurodivergent brothers and sisters. It's part of your superpower. You have the ability to process the environment much faster than someone who is neurotypical. Think about it. Think about conversations that you've had in the past. Think about situations that you've been in where you notice something and nobody else noticed it. Again, that's because we got that divergent ability to process. It's like twice the processing power, right? But it just means we're really fucking observant. I mean, we're wired that way. That's what our job was in the beginning of evolution. And so if you go into a place or you meet somebody and it's just spider senses tingling off, trust it. Fucking trust it 100%. My life has gotten so much easier over the years through that process. Living in Asia definitely kept me stimulated with dopamine and serotonin. Occasionally I had some blue days, for whatever reason. China blue days, as we used to call them. But generally speaking, there's enough going on every day that I didn't have to feel like I was missing out on something. It's surreal living in Asia as a Westerner. Even Asia Light, like in Kuala Lumpur or even in Bangkok in Thailand, where there's it's fairly westernized standard. There's still enough crazy shit going on that you can feel satisfied. Nothing wrong with that, right? And so for me, that's a better alternative than having to take either something heavy on a regular basis, or dealing with, Adderall or whatever the other new alternatives are. I mean, in the long run, it's not going to help. It's not going to change how you think, right? All it's doing is just sort of biohacking the stimulation, adding a little bit of amphetamine in there to get the dopamine going. But if you can move someplace where that happens naturally, wouldn't that be a better solution? Because that's the other thing is that, you're trying to get those dopamine circuits or pumps working naturally, as opposed to being, fed something. So some things to consider. Neurospicy in the bedroom. That can be a whole nother kettle of fish in different ways. For myself, it's a battle of wits sometimes. And I've had several partners over the years. I had my wife for 20 some years. And definitely the variation is useful. It's helpful. Again, it's that dopamine fix, right? But for some people, they just like the old saltine sex, Okay. Unfortunately, sometimes you need a bit more than that. But you gotta work it out. You gotta figure it out. You gotta compromise. That's what I'm learning is you have to compromise. If anything, I've had to learn on this adventure by myself is this idea of consent, given, earned, and then of course honorifics are important as well. Something I never really thought about before, like what do I call you? What do you call me? What do you want to say during the act, and so on. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to the subculture, or the fetish culture, that I think are applicable to our situation when we're neurospicy. Whether or not we're going to stay on that hog, that's another debate for another time. As it stands right now, I'm ready to hang up my spurs. Sort of not out of defeat per se, but just out of a desire for sort of a goodness and a stability in my life that seems to be missing, because I'm left to my own devices, and I need that slight connection to a different reality, one that is more conducive to living in this society if I choose to remain here. On the other hand, if I leave it, I prefer to leave with my old traveling buddy, because that does make a difference in a lot of ways. But again, I think about all the goddamn fucking fits and rage and shit that I've been through over the years because I couldn't express myself in a way that was effective, my needs or my desires, whatever else. And I know that my behavior was masking quite often, I guess is what we say in ADHD, masking my behavior. And it was always flawed. It wasn't a very good mask in that sense. And so I should have been definitely much more assertive for my boundaries, or for my own self. And it's hard to advocate for yourself, especially if you are a people pleaser, like most neurotypical people are. We want people to like us. And because we didn't get a lot of that growing up, not everybody, but for many of us, we didn't get a lot of that growing up. We were bullied or whatever else. And so we have a tendency to overdo it, to get people to like us. Whether it's love bombing or hyperfixating on the person or whatever it is. And then when we sort of come off of that, then they're kind of like, hey, what happened here? And so then the bar has been raised too high. And so it's important, I think, to be able to identify these sort of tells or characteristics involved with your level of your ADHD, so that you know a bit better, you're a bit more sentient for your own self-advocacy and making sure that your needs are met in a way that's effective. And if they can't be met through your partner or through your other situation, then you need to discuss some sort of solution or some sort of modification, which makes sense to me because I've had to modify a lot of things in my life in order to deal with this, and then also some of my physical limitations through injury or whatever else. Modification is always the key. You always want to keep moving. And the same thing about this issue. I don't want to just give up on myself and trying to finally pull out a win. That's what I asked somebody today. I said, when do I win? When do I get my Kiros, Why am I always sort of in the crosswinds with stuff because of being neurospicy? And that's why I started this. I saw the terminology as a hashtag, and I thought we need more of that. We need more empowerment for each other. We need somebody here. Again, I'm not the best person to fly the flag in the sense of I'm not a practitioner or someone who studied it like, somebody like Katie Osoris is probably a better expert in this area. But I'm accessible. That's the difference. A lot of those people are not as accessible as we would like them to be because they're so popular now. And so all I can do is continue to give you sort of my take on things, my anecdotal stories and theories in sort of a scattered way so that you can take something from it that might be useful to you. And if anything, it's just the fact that there's somebody else out here that maybe is struggling with a lot of the same things that you feel like you're struggling with. And I want you to realize it's not you. I know everybody says it's you, but it's not you. It's them, and it's the system that we live in. I know this for a fact because I've lived overseas and it wasn't me. And so that's my recommendation. If you don't believe it, try it. Go overseas and live for a while and see how you feel. And you realize that a lot of it is from living here. There's just so much that is so crossways with the way that we think. It's nearly impossible to navigate it without getting addicted to drugs or alcohol or sex or whatever else that we need to have for coping mechanisms. Something to consider. All right. 3:00. So 3 hours, maybe we'll all be stretched out like fucking spaghetti man in a black hole. Maybe we'll be, hey, Matthew McConaughey, Interstellar. That's a big rocket you got there. Or probably nothing will come of it. And so that's kind of typical, isn't it? Neurotypical? Perhaps. It's definitely a binary response to Schrodinger's cat. Oh, hear the train blowing the whistle. Must be homeless hobos on the tracks. That being said, I think I'll hit the sack. Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate you listening. If you have any questions, hit me up. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but I will do what I can if I can. All right. Cheers.